hold that state, or that state is held, let us call it that way, to the degree that state is held, then you are exploring. Not what comes to you, but you're now exploring a state of mind. Huh. In order for contemplation to function, that focus has to be held, has to be maintained. Right? It has to be held together. Now, that's Jiriki. It focuses and it holds on to it. Then, for those to whom it's present, it brings a completion, a sense of completion. Then the higher problem occurs. Would you agree? The most difficult problem of all of this is now to bring back the thoughts on a higher level. Self-congratulations, self-judgments, congratulations, self-judgments, and these then become a higher class of thoughts that begin to absorb one, just as the earlier ones did in the fragmented nature. And therefore, to that degree, one loses that focus, and one is then fragmented and has to go back and start it all over again. So it's the subtle art, though simple, of letting the mind be the way it is, without in any way forcing it to be anything other than a seeing. Without in any way grasping on to any of these emergent states of being, experiences, or thoughts. To that degree, that's a seeing then without an object. It's the use of the mind functioning, where there is a seeing without an object. There's an awareness then that is not attached to anything, and to the degree that that then is allowed, cultivated. Of course, you don't cultivate that. What you cultivate is the non-intrusion. To that degree, it brings about a completion. And to hold that is to hold it together in terms of a union. Well, then, look here, you see, here's our problem, see? We talked about the logos here. We talk about the logos with lovers. We talked about the logos in a dialogical relationship. And here's what's interesting. Is it possible that an intelligible grasp of the dynamics of meditation and contemplation would share in the very same things we talked about when we talked about the bread, the lovers, the dialogic relationship, or learning? Then there should be an intelligible model that won't tell you what to do, but will warn you about falling away from what is. And therefore, that's a freedom. It's not telling you what to do. It's just letting you know not to become distracted by what is not essential. That confidence in one's ability to persist in that, of course, develops with experience, but nonetheless, it's a trust in the fact that there is a union to mind, and mind is intelligible. It's not at war with itself. The parts are not at war. our relationships are not in conflict, but that through that union and that completeness we can reach a wholeness. And therefore, this is the dream of getting a map of consciousness, as sometimes it's called. If it is, by the same language, it should bring the better parts of ourselves together, hold together that state, right? And perfect it according to the presence of our ability to hold on to that, or not be distracted from it. And that kind of unity is itself good, and the good then unifies naturally the contemplator. Same language? Same language. So therefore, learning this language with bread, in relations, in learning, in dialogical relationships, gives you the skill and the confidence, and then you can just move it over here and find the similar things. So let me now turn to that great sheet, and I have a line I'd like to go to now. So I'm going to go to 2 lines. If the one is what brings together and holds together beings, it perfects each according to its presence. Going back into the preceding paragraph. The good for those it is present to brings completion. The good brings completion. The one perfects according to its presence. The good brings completion. See, it has a power. This is where we now separate from all our other considerations. I alluded to it. I said before that somehow people have an antenna or a radar where they can spot one another at a great distance. Right? Look here. This is saying there is some power in the nature of our reality which is good, and that itself has such a power that it can account for all the relationships that exist depending upon how receptive you are to the models that exist. To the degree that you're receptive to the models that exist, you then become like the model, and becoming like the model is the principle of likeness. To that degree, there's a presence of the good, there's a presence of the one. One brings completion, the other brings perfection. Thus, every good unifies what shares in it. All union is good. The good, the same as the one. It's my favorite proposition. Therefore, goodness is union, union is goodness, and the good is the one is primarily the good. Now, let's play. What would you like to ask about it? Because I have the same question I had before, I'll ask you if you don't have one. And that is, what does it do to go through this and see this language and the way it can be used? Does it matter?
Well, it brings about a contemplation. I don't know if you call it a contemplation, but if you can hold on to